Welcome to the 145 Rural Podcast, where we are here to strengthen music careers and communities one song at a time. And now, here's your host, Jacob Wing. Yay!
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode 9. And today we are going to go over why you should record yourself and kind of how you should. So, kind of a real quick episode today. Just going to go over some real quick basics. We're going to hit the asterisk first where, what this isn't about. So we're not talking about you going deep into recording, and recording stuff to put out into the world. So that is not what today's episode is about. This is all about having a system in place and having equipment in place so that you can record yourself and have a means to capture things as you're writing, as you're putting things together. If you have all these systems and pieces of gear in order, the cycle of writing songs and getting stuff out into the world becomes quicker, faster, and easier. So let's just get right into that. So as we just touched upon, why is it important to get some recordings done of yourself? And the first thing we want to talk about is inspiration. And inspiration is so fleeting. And I don't care who you are, good memory, bad memory, it doesn't matter. You can be working on something one day and have a great idea and think you've got it down pat and this is a great thing, I'm going to move forward to it. And you say, I'm going to just continue doing this, and you're going to come back to this tomorrow, and lo and behold, something happens, or you get some different ideas. Anything can happen, and that idea is now gone. And you can try to pull it back, or you can try to find your way back to how you found that sound, or whatever it may be. But from personal experience and just from talking to so many other songwriters, whatever that was, whatever inspiration you found at that moment is gone if you don't have it recorded or written down somewhere. So the really, really big thing to start out with is that if you think of something, if inspiration hits you for whatever reason, find a way to record that, be it whatever we talk about today with your process and what equipment you have around you, or a cell phone, or writing it down, or just humming it and just repeating it until you can find a way to get that recorded. That's really important. And if you take nothing else away from this episode, that should be the number one thing. Always find a way to record what you write or what you come up with. I promise you, if you don't need it today, if you don't need it tomorrow, at some point having that just tucked away for another time will be so beneficial. So that's the number one reason why you should record yourself, why you should have a means to do it. Number two, and a really good reason, is for organizing projects, organizing ideas. As you get deeper into, a year or two, and you start to build up some momentum as a music career, as an artist, and developing your sound and who you are, you're going to start to build a backlog of ideas as you're, this isn't for today. This isn't the sound I'm going to work on today, but let's tuck this away. I know it's a good idea, but I'm not quite ready to put that forward and develop everything in this. And, having a backlog is a fantastic thing, but when they're recorded and when you have a system in place, the organization is so much easier for you to just go back and say, okay, now's the time. I'm ready to go deeper into this. I'm ready to put out a 5-song EP or put an album out, or maybe you're just getting a band together for the first time and you need to start sending ideas back and forth. Hey, I've got this piece, and this piece. Having that and organized and ready to go is so much easier, and it just gets you to the creative part faster instead of going through the weeds and getting stuck. So organization's a big number 2 on the reasons why. Number 3 is something as songwriters maybe we don't talk about enough, but it's a great way for you to deal with song structure. So like I was saying before, sometimes you're just noodling around and you come up with a great idea, great concept, some kind of theme for a song, And in your head, this is genius. This is great. This is going to be a good song. And you just kind of noodle around with it, and then you come back to it again, maybe a second time, another day, and you're working through it. It doesn't quite feel the same, or it doesn't sound the same. You're like, hey, that felt like a good idea that day, but not so much today. If you take the time to just get it recorded, even in its rawest form, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can start to hear what the rhythm sounds like. Maybe you need to tweak it just a bit here and there. Maybe there's parts of it that are working really great and you hear something there, but you're just phoning in parts of it. Like if it was a chord progression that worked really well for you. Maybe the movement between the first 2 or 3 chords felt really great, and the fourth part or the fifth part just started to feel really phoned in, or you've heard it somewhere else and you need to tweak it and make it sound like you, or sound more interesting to your palette. So hearing that recorded really helps you start to put together the structure of where that is, how it should be, what the rhythm needs to be, and not even to mention just that, the tempo. Sometimes you'll write something and you're just playing along and in your head and you feel it nice and it's a nice soft, slow groove, and then you record it and you're like, well, this is kind of boring, or you're putting it in the context of another project where you're doing 5 songs together and you've already got 3 or 4 really slow songs in this kind of feel, and you need to split it up, and then you give it a little more tempo, you push it a little bit, and it's like, oh, it's its own new thing. So just having that recording gives you that context to work with. So that's a great way to really work with song structure. And the fourth really good reason to have a recording and to be recording everything you do is to have personal context. And this is something that you're never going to notice right away, but if you're doing this consistently, you will start to develop a little library of things that you've done over time. And I promise you, when you start to look back over 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, even though that may look impossibly into the future, the more that you can look back and take a retrospective of everything you've done, how your sound is developed, how your techniques have changed, how you've grown as an artist, and you can hear how you've grown as a person in your lyrics, your songwriting, and everything you've done. Having an archive of what you've done is really invaluable, especially for giving you a further direction as to where you want to go at that point. Having something to look back on and be proud of, but then say, this is where I want to go. I've been here. I've done this. I was weak at this. I'm strong in this now. So let's go forward and move here. Having that is a really great resource. So those are the reasons why you should always be recording yourself and always have a way to record yourself. So now that you're a little bit more convinced and maybe you have a little more reason to do it, let's talk a bit about the equipment that you're going to need to do this. So I kind of broke this down into 2 parts. This, like I said, this is just for you to be able to capture your sounds and ideas at all times. So this, like I said, this is not about you putting music out in the world. We're not going to put together a list of things that you have to go out and buy and invest, thousands upon thousands of dollars to sound good and to be sharing your music and feel like you're building your repertoire and something like that. This is just the bare minimums to get started as an artist and what you should always have. So, and of course, it's not a long list. And some of these things you should already have. It's just part of being a modern person in today's society. So hopefully some of these things are just gonna be like, oh, I've already got that. No problem. And then, for a lot of you, you've already been doing this and maybe it's just feels like you're just talking about the same thing and this isn't there. This isn't going to help you so much, but just making sure further down this list where it'll help you organize things and have a mindset and build this system for you. Since you've already got everything, you'll have a better means of having a system and to organize that and to be able to pull from that reserve of things you have. So starting out with the list and the equipment, first things first is, of course, a means to capture recording is where you want to start. But first and foremost, before we do any of that, you have to start with a computer. You have to have a central hub where everything needs to go. So everybody today has a computer. It doesn't matter what kind. It doesn't matter Mac PC. It doesn't matter if it's a laptop or a desktop. It doesn't matter how much the stats of the computer, as long as you have one and it works for you right now, that is fantastic. That's all you need. And as a part of going into the stats, I mean, it's not that they don't matter, but we'll get into that at another time. And you'll feel as you grow, just like with everything, if you're doing enough things where you need more power to get things done, you need more processing power and more RAM, and you need a better, graphics card to achieve some of the editing and all those kind of things. That's not important now, and you will know when you need those things. And as to what you need and what's best to use, not super important, but we do have an episode coming out right after this one, the following week after this one, with an IT expert, Nathan Langendorfer. He stopped in and we did an interview, and we just talk about all that kind of stuff. So if that's the kind of thing you need to know, like what should I be investing my money in, or what kind of computer should I have, that next episode is right up your alley. So just keep your eyes open for that. And he was so great, or so gracious to stop by with us and have that discussion. But so you just have to have a computer. Any computer will do. So the next thing you're going to need is your cell phone. And it's not that you need everything else, in this order, but you need to have, you already have a cell phone. Clearly you're already using it. You're either watching this on it, listening to this on your cell phone, or you have one next to you right now. Having a cell phone is just a modern part of the way we live. But the important part about this is that you have a way on you at all times to capture what sounds you're making. When that muse comes along, you're ready to capture that. And it's great to have the means to record yourself in your normal living situation, wherever your house, your office, wherever you're at, your bedroom. But you're not always going to be there. You're going to be out playing shows. You're going to be out rehearsing. You're going to be out just playing music with friends, or, in different situations when these things hit. And it's important that you have a way to get that, to really have a way to put that on something. So, and then you of course have to have a way to take that sound and move it from your phone to your computer. So just having a link between the two, either using your USB cable or Thunderbolt cable, or a management system where you can upload it to a cloud, either through iCloud or whatever system you might use to move those sound files on your computer, just so they're in a central location, makes a huge difference when it goes back to when it's time that you need to get those sounds and start putting things together. When they're in one central location, it's so much easier than when you're just trying to figure out, oh yeah, I recorded that, but where is it now? Is it on my computer? Did I leave it on my phone? Where's that at? So using that is great. So you've got your computer, you've got your cell phone, and then the third, not really audio related, but kind of really important piece of equipment that you need to have as part of this system and this process is a hard drive. And I would recommend investing in an external hard drive if you could. Those are so useful just because as you move from place to place, you can take it with you, or it moves with you, but it's also a very safe place to have those files in a very central location. And as you go to rehearse with your band, your group, or anything like that, you can just take it with you on the move. So we're going to go just a little bit deeper into what to do with that since we're here. And then from there, we're going to move on to what kind of audio equipment you need to start getting a more reliable and better recordings. But the important thing with this external hard drive is that you need to spend a little bit of time organizing these, so that when those creative times do come, and when you get that push to start writing and developing these songs, they need to be in an organized way. So you need to come up with a filing system, and I'm just going to give you a quick example of one that you can use, and I've found very useful, especially when I'm recording myself, and of course as I produce other people and other artists and other groups, this has been the best way for me to go back and reference different things and to use those kind of things. So the first thing that you want to do is just have an overall arcing folder for your music somewhere on that drive where it just says music or my recordings, that kind of thing. So it seems obvious, but you should have one central location where these things are all located. The next thing is you want to break down anything down, any kind of files to their projects. So if you have a band name or an artist name that you record under, and that's the only thing you do, that makes it really simple. Just put your name or the band or whatever you are as that folder name, and then every recording can go into that folder there. There's a lot of us that work on multiple projects, so as you're having these ideas, maybe that you have a sound or a chord progression came to you where it's going to sound good for a different project. So it's not going to sound good for your solo stuff or what you do on your own, but the band that you're working with, this is perfect. This is that kind of sound. So make sure that you have yourself and that whatever your project name is, and then anything that you might ever do now or in the future, have separate folders for those. And even if you don't know what those names are, just give them placeholders. And that's a big thing about this, is just using placeholders really does help, future song ideas. Boom. There you go. Throw it in that folder. I want to start a rock band later, rock ideas, or this is my country music or solo ideas, just as long as you have a subset per project. The next one, as you got them broken down into the project, is you want to go per song. And again, this is a great place to use placeholders. So just kind of have a numbering system going. That's what I've used for years, is just song idea number so-and-so. So song idea number 35. And then, it's got that. But not just that. I found over time that can even get itself a little confusing. And having a second reference in the title of that really does help. So if you're just going song by song, song in this example, song idea number 35. And then after that, I will put the month and the year. That way I have an idea to reference, when was this written? I can always go back to, hey, remember I was working on this stuff back then. It was early spring and I had that really good idea. And I can go back like, oh, hey, April 2022, perfect. And then it's just having a secondary system, so you'll know song idea number 35, April 2002, or just April 22. That way you have an idea of when that was done. And having those two separate markers really can help out. But that's just a really quick breakdown of what you should do and the ideas that you should use for file management. But it really does make it so much easier when you come back and you're like, I'm ready to start taking on this project, or I'm ready to do some development. And then you have those organized. And even sometimes I can say from experience too, that you go back to these files and these things from 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 5 years ago, and you start picking out these things like, oh, I wrote that. Sometimes it's like, oh, that was crap. I'm glad I walked away from that, and I clearly didn't have a use for it. But, every once in a while you've like, oh, wow, I'm so glad I took the time to record that. I didn't remember I even wrote this, but this is good. I can make something out of this, or I can use this in what I'm working on now. So those kind of things will happen to you if it's just because you took the time to develop this system and do these recordings. Hi there, and welcome to the ad break. We're just going to take a moment to let everybody know about our community of growing members, and if you'd like to be a part of that, just look at the info below and there will be a click there for an email sign up to join in and get your voice heard. As well, if you're enjoying this content, please join our Patreon at patreon.com/145rural. There you can join any of our groups, and you can add to the discussion of what topics we will choose that will help you and hopefully future members of our groups, as well as join monthly Q&As and other such benefits. Again, that's patreon.com/145rural, and we look forward to seeing you there. Now, back to that regularly scheduled episode, and enjoy that content. Thanks again. We've talked about the things that you need, not audio related, but you should invest some time and some money into having a way to record in your office or your home or your studio, wherever you may reside, that's just a little bit cleaner and crisper so that you can share these ideas and not have to explain them so much, like, oh, ignore this sound or ignore the noise or just this part and this part. Having a way to capture these things and do just the slightest bit of editing can really make a big difference and help you convey these ideas and develop them quicker, faster, and better. And so for that, we're going to need some audio equipment. And I've compiled just the quickest and smallest list that you will ever need just to get these recordings done and make sure that you can execute all these ideas. And that list is as follows. So the first thing that you're going to need, obviously, is an audio interface. And that's just the thing that you're going to plug whatever you're doing, either you're recording your voice or you're in an instrument, whatever it is that you've written this song on. You're going to plug it directly into this box or this interface, and that's going to plug into your computer. So if you've never owned one or had one before, they've come so far and so amazing, and they're so much cheaper than they used to be. So there's really no excuse to have one. But I just want to make a quick recommendation for those that are just starting out. You're a songwriter, and for those that don't have anything yet, if you're going to just spend this little bit of investment in this, just skip over the very beginning of, like, the very lowest level. And usually what they'll give you is a one input for a microphone and one input for an instrument. And that's fine. If that's all you can do, that's fantastic. Do it. That's fine. But if you can invest just like $50 more, I would suggest getting something with two inputs that have both XLR and instrument level inputs. And the reason for this is that as a songwriter, either you're recorded, like writing on your piano or your keyboard or your guitar, and you're also singing at the same time, and you're capturing two different ideas. For the most part, that happens quite a bit. And it's so much easier when you're just getting concepts and ideas just to be able to do them both at the same time. If that's what works for you, then you don't even have to think about it. You just plug them both in, record. You've got your guitar, your piano separately. You've got the vocal part separate, and it makes it really nice and easy. So the lowest thing you should invest in is just one with those two kind of inputs. The Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 is, I believe, anywhere from like $150 to $200, and that's brand new. I always suggest going used, but that should be the very first investment you're making. So we've got the audio interface. You've got some way to plug an instrument in your voice into a computer. The next thing I would suggest is that you're going to need a DAW. And a DAW is just we've kind of just thrown that term around a bit between some of our interviews already and just me talking. But a DAW is a digital audio workstation. And that's the thing on your computer that's going to allow you to edit any kind of audio. So I would not suggest going out and spending a ton of money on this kind of thing. You just need something where you're going to be able to organize your sounds, cut off the beginnings and the ends, and maybe a little bit of EQing can be great, but these aren't things that you need to dive deep into right yet. You're not putting, like I said, we're not putting this out into the world. You just have to have them captured. So some suggestions that I wrote down here are all, free in some way. And that's all that's really important. You do just some way to edit these things and organize them and put them where they need to be. Cakewalk is a great free program. I would suggest. I started out on that way back when it was actually, well, I guess that doesn't really matter, but it was way back when in the mid 90s when I first had a copy of Cakewalk. But it's free now, and it's great software, and it'll do the job. If you have a Mac, anyway, it usually comes with a version of GarageBand, and that works fantastic. You can do all the editing you need there for short things and capture ideas and stuff like that. So GarageBand, if you have a Mac of some kind, those are fantastic. If you want to dive a little bit deeper into something that you could actually invest your time and money into and you want to grow into, Reaper is fantastic. It is, I think they have a free 90-day trial for their software, And that is a great starting place. And then I think it's $60 if you want the full version, which is absolutely crazy, insane cheap for an investment. But it also does. I know a lot of people that use that as their main DAW, professionals in the audio world. So I love, for myself, when I'm going to invest time or start somewhere, I love having room to grow and invest. So that's a great place to start. I would suggest, if you want to invest money, I would say start with Logic or something like that. I myself have used Pro Tools for 20 plus years, and I don't think I want to recommend that to anybody. And it's not because I'm saying you aren't going to get it or you're not smart enough. It's just there's so many better options now, and it feels like the company Avid is that owns Pro Tools now is really making it hard for the everyday musician and people starting out to grow into this and make it part of their daily routine. And they're finding ways to kind of push people out. It feels like, it's just my personal opinion, doesn't mean it's fact. And if you want to do Pro Tools, by all means, I absolutely love it. I just happen to know all the shorthand, and I've spent so many years just learning the ins and outs, and I could easily learn a different one, not a problem. But I do have a backup system I use. It is Studio One by Presonus. I'm a huge Presonus fan. They make lower cost equipment and software, but it all works at top level, which I really appreciate. There's a couple brands like that are just, I could not recommend enough. Behringer makes cheaper stuff, that kind of idea. Not important now, but Studio One's also a great option for a DAW. So those are just some great options to get started, free and cheaper options. But that's where you get your start, and that's where you start to do your quick editing. And like I said before, many, many times, just go to YouTube. It'll show you how to do anything. If you need to figure out how to do quick edits or, shape the sound a little bit, there's so many tutorials. Just type in what you need to do, and those are available. So now we've got the audio. We've got a way to capture it. We've got a way to edit it. But we need a way to actually get the sound from what we're doing into the audio interface. So we need some microphones, and I would suggest you invest in at least two. My suggestions at the start for everybody has always been the same. For myself, even back in the very beginning, Shure makes some of the most steady and trustworthy and used microphones out there for beginners and for even professionals. The Shure SM58 is great for capturing live vocals or just vocals in general. It has a great spectrum, and it's just great to start out with. And it has a built-in filter on it, so like a wind filter or a pop filter, like this big black thing. If you're watching on YouTube, right in front of my face, it does help with some sibilance, or that sound of popping. Pop. It does make a huge difference. It breaks up that sound going into there. And so usually get those for a little bit over $50 or so, $60 for a SM58. If you're going to record your instrument not directly into the interface, like if you have a guitar amp or something like that, you want to record, an SM57, which is just, one number smaller, is a great small condenser microphone that is great for loud instrument sounds like that. And you'll use it no matter what you do in your career. You're going to use that thing. You can use it for live shows. You use it even in your recordings. Whatever level you're at, you're going to find a way to use those things. So, and not to mention the resale value on those are always there. And like I said, you can usually get a SM57 for around $50 used. So always go used. So we've got two microphones, and then we need a way to connect them. Two XLR cables. And those are the ones that have the 3-prong ends. You're going to need two of those just so you have them and always ready. And then one, I would always suggest invest in a really good instrument cable, whatever that may be for you. I'm really lucky here in the Northwest that we are right next to one of my favorite cable manufacturers, Rattlesnake Cables. And if you can invest a couple extra dollars into an instrument cable, please look them up. I'll put their link in the show notes and down below. But you should go take a look at those. They are fantastic, and I believe they have a warranty with them, and they are just built to take a beating. and they last a really long time. So invest in those, and I promise you it'll pay dividends in the end. So in the end, what we're looking at here, two in the ends, if you had none of those things for your audio equipment, you're looking at spending about anywhere from $300, $400, $450 in that area, which can be a little overwhelming right now, but a lot of people listening to this either have some or all of those things already. So, and if you do, that just makes this list so much simpler to put together, and you can go from there. But the important thing is that you have a system in place like this, and you have all these pieces of equipment ready to go at any moment's notice, so that when it is time to start using your creative juices and putting your work into these things, it's so much simpler to get to the good part when all the hard work and all the other stuff and the monotonous, boring crap is already out of the way. So that's the real emphasis of this whole episode, is just have a way to capture those ideas, and those are going to really pay off going forward. So I really want to thank you guys for taking time to listen to this. Like I said before, we have a interview with an IT expert here coming up, just talking about, the computer component of what we just went over. And some people just really need to hear that kind of stuff and haven't really thought too deeply about it. So I would suggest if you need some kind of information like that and just want to get some extra knowledge, take a listen to that episode coming up next week with Nathan Langendorfer. And then I look forward to seeing you guys in some more episodes. So thank you guys again, and you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much. Bye.